starting from, let's just call it zero, because even if you were in the business at Quicken/Rocket, in the business at UWM, having your own ship and your own thing and having to market that, what was the beginning of that like? Especially you talked about how you built that pipeline. What do those beginning marketing activities actually look like for someone?
Yeah, so I personally, what I did, and I'm sure some realtors will listen to this and I remember him blowing us up, but and I even tell my team what I did for honestly 2 years straight when I basically became a loan officer or on the broker side. I would go through Zillow and homes.com, all these different places, and I would find 25 realtors a day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the King's Gambit. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that the YouTubers say so I can keep bringing you guys these episodes. Today, I've got a great guest on with us today. Got a buddy of mine, old friend, one of my brothers, and honestly, one of the best and most successful entrepreneurs I personally know. I got Demetris Holloway here, co-founder of Belong Lending. Thanks for lending us your office today and sitting down with me, bro.
Yes, hopefully I can stand up to what you just said.
Yeah. No, hey man. If I was introducing you out in public to somebody else, maybe we got a little different intro. We gotta keep it. We gotta keep it classy out here.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm afraid before we get into it, I'm gonna let you know this is not that type of podcast. We're not about to be out here on some corporate bullshit. We're gonna sit. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna kick it. I don't think I'm supposed to curse in the first few seconds of the episode, but whatever. YouTube.
Demonetized.
Yeah, I'm not making anybody off of it anyway. So let's just have some fun with it. So. Yeah, man. So, I've known you forever, obviously. So, we go way back to high school and we've had a million events on the road together since then. So I want to start with, since we're talking here in your office at Belong Lending, I want to start on the business side of things. I'm personally about to go meet with some of my cousins. I'm back home visiting in Detroit for a week. Got some younger cousins that are in college right now that I don't want to say they're not on the right path, but I don't know if they're doing the thing that they want to do.
Right.
And so I would love to hear from your experience. You're a mortgage broker, shop owner now. When did you know you wanted to even be in this business? Because I don't think that's what you were working on in high school. Don't even know if that's what you're doing in college. So when did you figure it out?
No, I didn't even know what I wanted to do after college. And then a buddy of mine introduced me to the mortgage space. And I just got into it. I started making money. And I'm like, this actually isn't too bad. So I was never on the path of mortgages, but I just randomly got into it and kept pushing it forward. But I did know always eventually that I wanted to own something. I just didn't know what that was going to be. And the mortgage company found me, so here we are.
Nice. Yeah. What did you, going back to college, I don't think high school, at this point, no one thinks about really what they want to do in high school. The idea you had doesn't even matter or translate once you graduate high school. So college is when that pressure is on of okay, figure out your path and what are you going to do? Right. What did you think you were going to do when you got into college? What did you plan on doing when you got out of college? What was your degrees in?
Yeah, so business supply chain. Okay. So I thought I was going to be working in logistics. I did have an offer to work at BP in Houston. I didn't end up wanting to make the move, being that far away from family. So I just started in mortgages.
Yeah. Does anything that you were doing from your schooling or degree, does any of that translate to what you're doing now? Did anything carry over, or was that a fresh start?
Math and numbers, but besides that, there's no similarities to what I was doing now.
With that, you mentioned not taking an offer in Houston, wanting to be close to family. Was that the pivot point for you where you decided, okay, it's okay to do something different than what you had initially planned out to do? Or how did you because that I think is a scary thing for some people. You've planned, or even especially if you add on the pressure of college, I spent all this money, all this time studying, I need to
you have to
do this thing. So how did you break out of that?
It was never, the plan was never to stay in mortgages. It was I'm just gonna work here. I heard you can make a lot of money at Quicken Loans at the time, now Rocket. And I said, hey, I'm just gonna make some good money and then I'll figure it out. And me figuring it out is becoming a mortgage broker owner. So it was never the plan to stay in it. It just happened.
Yeah. And since you mentioned Rocket, Quicken, we're physically in the heart of downtown Detroit. You got an awesome office you guys recently opened here. So first off, super congrats on that, because that is huge. I've enjoyed hanging out here all day. The vibes are great in here. But on a business note, a real note, you are literally in the shadow of Rocket, Quicken. Dan Gilbert, this shit feels kind of like out of like a comic book movie. Like
Right,
you got
right.
this billionaire who has bought up the entire downtown city, Detroit. What is that like being like in his shadow and being like literally like that's your biggest competitor like right around you?
So I mean, to an extent, they're a competitor, but on a mortgage broker scale, they're a retail lender. So like you can, they get their business from people calling in to them and servicing the loan, kind of controlling the whole process. As brokers, we don't service the loans. We handle the loans in-house. We do the underwriting, and then the loan is sold to a Quicken Loans, a UWM, whoever that has you or what has you. But I think especially in Detroit, it being a city where there's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of people haven't had generations of people buying homes. I feel like they like talking to someone more local and friendly. They can come into the office and get a good feel of the office, whereas Quicken, they're just on the phone. You can drive past it, but you can't walk into their office, So I think our biggest advantage is not being that corporate and giving it more of that homey feeling. So we are in their shadows, but I don't even see them as a competitor,
So you actually end up working with them, like in some ways, if you're like running some loans to them, but you guys are okay.
Yeah, some brokers do broker deals through Quicken. We personally don't, because they're, like I said, they're a big retail channel. So once the loan is done and sold to them, they can market and do whatever they want and steal that loan from you when they go to refinance, as opposed to going to, say, like a UWM who doesn't have a retail lender. The loan closes with them. They don't have people that can call and say, hey, do the refinance. If these people call in to UWM and say, hey, I want to refinance, they send that back to us because they don't have licensed loan officers,
Gotcha.
So I feel like they're more of a true partner. So I guess that was a long-winded answer of that, but I don't feel them as a competitor. We compete with them sometimes, but they don't.
Two different like types
I
of.
feel like it's two different.
I mean, like you said earlier, you started at Quicken. We graduated at college at the same time, and I remember graduating, and it felt like every single guy I know is really what it was.
Right.
Everybody somehow was like working downtown at Quicken, and at least what it looked like on the outside, because I was started my marketing career at that time, was you guys were making tons of money. Everyone's downtown having a blast and a ball. Like, what were those times like? What's that like work environment like? What's that kind of loan culture, and what's that? Yeah, that was like the industry of downtown Detroit.
Right. Yeah, and they were like the first big business and had a lot of young, vibrant people coming there. And I mean, the culture was like majority of the people were just graduating college. They didn't know what they were going to do, and they're like, hey, we can make some money. I'm going to go work here. You're downtown. It was just becoming, coming back. So it was like you had all the new restaurants popping up. So it felt like almost like a mini college town, and everybody that worked there was our age. So it was, people give it a lot of grief in the sweatshop and all that stuff, which it somewhat is, but when you're 21 and you've never made money and now they're like, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you don't have any complaints, you know what I mean? But as you progress through the ranks and the years and you see like, they're making this and they're giving me this small amount of the pie, you're like, the money is good, but you're getting a very, very small percentage. And then when I started to become in leadership and I saw, those kind of intricacies of it, I was like, I need a bigger piece of the pie, So they were my introduction, so I appreciate them for that. I mean, they have a great business model, but I mean, as you get older and you see things, I feel like it's not meant for that. It's more of that young, grinded out, hungry, fresh out of college, that kind of.
Yeah. Well, shit, like you said, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's big opportunities.
Yeah.
Who is successful in that environment, like at a Quicken? Because what I remember, if we talk about sweatshop in the factory, we're not here trying to shit on Quicken, but high turnover for sure. There's a lot of people that I remember were in that industry, close my eyes, and a few years later, like they're doing something completely different. So to be successful in that type of structure, what's the skill set you need, or what's that kind of?
I just feel like it's like a young man's sport. It's almost like professional athletes. Like you have to, if you're gonna, to make the money that you want, you have to be there grinding it out 7, 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12 p.m. to make that kind of money. But I feel like as people get older or, they have kids and life changes, it's hard to like continue to do that. You know what I mean? So unless you become go into leadership, like a team leader or a division leader or assistant vice president as you get to that, you're more of like a 9 to 5, and you're just kind of managing people as you're not writing loans anymore. So I think it's just a good young starter, like grind it out type.
What's maybe like the best skill to have, or maybe the best skill you pick up like in that role? Is that purely like a telesales job, or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But that's where, that's where I learned sales, like that's where you're using like all the like sales, lingo and all that stuff. And that's where I learned all that from. So it was good to know that. It was good to like understand that, because I think sales and on the phone, any profession, you would need that. So if you leave that place and go into a marketing, you're not in sales, but you still have to be able to sell something. So I think, it's a good place for that, but as you progress, it's maybe not the best for me personally, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I can speak to that as like an agency owner, having taken like the marketing path. I remember I always thought I wanted to avoid sales. Like I just thought like selling was like scummy and sleazy, and like I was like, oh, I like to consult and problem solve, and so I'm not selling. And so I never took a job that like I had like that was the core role. Actually, I did, and I left it pretty quickly right out of college because I wanted to do the marketing side of it. Now, fast forward 10 years plus, being on the agency owner side of it, the thing I'm doing more often than not is selling.
Right.
So having that background, even the small example that I have, definitely set me up for a little bit more success now. And now looking back, that's something I wish I had like done a little bit more of. So, okay. After Quicken, you don't go straight to this. What do you end up doing next?
United Wholesale Mortgage.
Okay.
And so they're basically a wholesale lender. And then our role was there is to help mortgage brokers like what I am now get the loans in, sell the loans, structure the loans, and you get, paid per loan, The Quicken was the kind of, like business to consumer, and UWM was like business to business, because UWM, you're not technically talking to the customer, you're talking to the broker. So it's business to business. So I kind of learned both sides to now help us be in this position, because I saw the full scope of things.
Nice.
So like a Quicken it was more of like, hey, you do the loan, you get the loan in. Once you send it in, you never see it again. On the UWM side, the loan comes in, you get the appraisal order, you see all of everything. So you see the life of the loan, if you will. So I think working at both helped me out a lot, because I learned the sales side and that side from Quicken, and then UWM showed me the business side and how to like actually close and fund loans. So I think most people, that's why I think that a lot of people become brokers, because they kind of went to the same path as me, and they're like, oh, this is, it's easy, not easy, but it's just almost like the next step.
Was there like a point at UWM, like, or something, because we go from UWM and now we're here at Belong, right? Yeah. So was there like a point, an inflection point, something that happened or something you saw that like was like, okay, I'm ready to go do my own thing now?
Yeah, I guess say yes and no. I was like kind of like I was there for 3 years, so like kind of like the second, maybe like 2.5 year mark, I was like looking, I'm like, I'm watching, I'm helping all these brokers, and I guess my turning point was we're helping brokers grow their business. And I kept saying, like, teaching these people how to be a broker. And then I kept thinking in my head, why wouldn't I just do that for myself, So it wasn't like a aha moment, but it was just like, I just kept thinking about like, I should just be doing this on my own, And then from there, it's kind of like when me, Jalen, Antoinette kind of got together and thought about coming up with Belong.
Yeah. For someone, let's say they're already in this industry, or let's say they're interested in it, what does separate? Because not in a jaded way, but like the kind of trend of the last few years, and we'll talk about a few more trends, especially in your industry. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to be a business owner. Everyone's like, be your own boss, do this. It's not for everybody. It's 100% not. I've personally learned, whether it's people that like I thought about bringing on as partners that ended up not working out, and I'm glad it didn't, or people that I thought would be great partners that turned it down, frankly. They were like, no, I really want to stay like in my lane. And that my brain couldn't comprehend, because I think I'm always like more, what else we can figure out. But some people need to, whether they know it or not, like should be like acutely focused on something. So what's that difference between someone who's like a superstar loan officer versus someone who's like should go into the mortgage business?
I mean, I would say the people who want to be owners are one that's kind of wants to be able to like lead and have control of like their process, their company, what, that stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff. But there also are a lot of loan officers that just say, hey, I want to write 10 loans a month. And I don't want to worry about all the BS that goes behind the scenes, the compliance, the licensing, the audits, we've talked about that, all that stuff they don't, want to do. They want to just write loans. And I've thought about it myself. Like, I was like, dang, I remember where I could just come in and write 5 loans and go home and I'm good, So you have to be ready to handle all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. As like I said, the audits, the managing people, the excuses, the employees, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to just be ready for that. And if you're a person that's like, hey, I just want to make my money, do my loans and go home, that you shouldn't get into ownership, because it will, it's not cheap to do. So, you can invest all this money and then you look up and you're like, I don't even do this. I just want to go back to doing loans.
Right. What percentage of your time do you, like, if when you were a loan officer, 100% of your time was being a loan officer, exactly. What percent of your time is it now?
So, I'm very fortunate where I have a lot of good realtor partners and a sphere of influence. So a lot of my deals are kind of not given to me, but like they're already ready to go. Like, hey, this person wants to get pre-approved. Hey, this person wants to get pre-approved. So I don't have to do, of course I still do it, but not as much like going to the coffee shops and the networking and, being out in the field. So I would say like when I was just becoming a loan officer, of course, 100% of that is going towards that. But now I would say probably, maybe 50-50 is like, split. I've tried to split it pretty much of like working on the business and then working on my personal business. But, I think it kind of depends on the week or day, because sometimes it all belong and sometimes it's all personal. It just depends on how it goes. So I would say, I guess 50-50, but good thing I have, like I said, I have a strong pipeline where I don't have to always be out in the field.
Yeah. Which that just segues us nicely into the marketing bit of it, because I think that's important. Watching you for the last couple of years build this business, build your brand, your reputation. You've always been like, no, you were definitely one of like, the notorious kids in high school, right? You were definitely known on college campus as well too, right? So like a name was out there, but starting from, let's just call it zero, because even if you were in the business at Quicken/Rocket, in the business at UWM, having your own ship and your own thing and having to market that, what was the beginning of that like? Especially you talked about how you built that pipeline. What do those beginning marketing activities like actually look like for someone? Yeah,
so I personally, what I did, and I'm sure like some realtors will listen to this and like I remember him like blowing us up, but like, and I even tell my team what I did for honestly 2 years straight when I basically became a loan officer or on the broker side. I would go through Zillow and like homes.com, all these different places, and I would find 25 realtors a day. And I was just like hammering them like, hey, how can I be assistants? How can I do this? How can I do that? And and then on the weekends when they were doing open houses, Saturday and Sunday, I was trying to do at least 2, but like, at worst 1 open house a day. And I literally did that for 2 years straight. So now, it's just still funny. I'll like go send a first time realtor I'm like, I don't think I've worked with before. And I'll go send them a message, because now we have a deal or they're on the listing side. And I'll see that text from like 4 years ago where I'm like blowing this guy up, but like now and then, but they accept the offer, even though we maybe don't work together all the time. But they're like, man, you used to blow me up. I appreciate the grit and the hustle. So for me personally, it was just reaching out and being available and like showing up and being there for trying to be an asset for these realtors.
And I really want to make that like a sticking point that we like talk about too, because I think that's something, not to shit on the Gen Zs, but I've worked with a bunch of them, especially in the last couple of years, and like they're very avoidant to talking to people. There's a lot of millennials, especially post-COVID, especially now, avoidant to talking to people and doing those things. So like there was no playbook for that. I'm assuming no one told you, hey, to go sit in a coffee shop or do this or do that. So like, where did you kind of get that idea and that mindset? And like, when you say be available and be a resource, like what were some of the things that you were like literally doing to get these guys' business?
Yeah, I don't want to give them all my sauce, but the script was basically, I would find them, on the Zillows or whatever, and I would shoot them a text like, hey, my name's Demetris Holloway. I work at Belong Lending. Can I ask you a couple questions? And some people would be like, no. Well, I would say I'll go back a little bit. When I was starting to call people, but what I've noticed when I was early on, I didn't really truly know everything a realtor was doing. So a lot of times I'm calling or doing these things. When they answer, they couldn't always talk because they're doing showings and home inspections. We're loan officers. We're in the office way more than a realtor. They're driving. So it's like, it's hard to catch them on the phone if they don't know you. You know what I mean? So I was calling them a lot, and I was always getting like kind of off put, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But then I started, what was the turning point is I just started texting them like, hey, can you, my script was basically like, hey, Demetris Holloway from Belong Lending, can I ask you a couple questions? Some would say yes, some would say no, some would say screw you. And when they said yes, I would say, what do you like working out of your mortgage professionals? And I can't think of the last thing I said. Well, I'm trying to think. It was, what do you like working about your mortgage professionals? It was just basically 2 questions. And at that point, they would just not answer, or they would say these 3 things or these 2 things, whatever it is. And I would just like let it sit. I wouldn't respond. I would just say thank you. And then like a couple days later, I'd give them a call. And now it's more like a warm lead, and I'm like, hey, I sent you the text. You told me you like X, Y, and Z. This is what I can do for you. This is how I, help my partners in this. But I would say, hey, I don't want to bore you. Let's go get coffee. And then that opened up the door for me to like get into all these people. And that was like what I literally did for 2 years.
Yeah. Which is brilliant, and it's really simple, but that is like what it takes. Like there is no shortcut to this. I mean, it's something I've personally learned myself in the last couple of years is like, you just need reps and reps and reps and reps and reps. So like going out there, not being afraid to be rejected. And it's funny, your customers or your potential customers, and this really works across any industry, will literally tell you what it takes to sell them and exactly what you need. If you ask them, it's just most people don't.
And most people never ask.
Yeah.
And that's
like, I can't get through I can't sell to this guy. Like, did you ask him what it takes to sell him? And he'll tell you, and now you just present that back to him, and it works. That's years ago. Talk about, where Belong is now. How many years in are we?
So we're 3 years.
3 years in. Yeah. So, business has matured a bit. We've got an office, we've got a staff. It's not just you, even if you wanted to be sitting in coffee shops and all that. So even though you guys are, very Detroit present and, very local in the community, you don't physically meet every single person that you're talking to or anything like that. So how do you go about attracting new business now? How do you go about presenting Belong to people who've never met you and seen you face to face, whether that's the end consumers or like gaining more B2B partners in a pipeline?
So I still do, like I said, I don't do it as much, but the way I still get my leads are from all of my realtor partners. But I set time once a week to still do that same reaching out to new realtors. All my leads come from my current realtors, as well as my sphere of influence and social media, just consistently posting and kind of just being top of mind. I've noticed with social media, it doesn't have to be great. You just have to show up, you know? So that's basically where I get my business and continue to get this from.
Which I've definitely noticed, and that's a great thing to say, because I don't want to shit on your social media by saying it's not the best. The consistency is important. If I were to show which we'll pop some up on screen, you're clear to close. I see that, and that has become a staple of your brand. I recognize it everywhere. Is it the most aesthetically pretty flyer ever made? No, but it clearly communicates the information. And from the outside looking in, the one thing I can tell is you guys are really fast at getting your loans, because it's always single digit days, right? Couple days. And so it is just being consistent and constantly posting that. And I think that's a pillar of your guys' brand, is that you guys are really quick and easy to work with. What networks for you guys for social media, what's been the most effective for you? Where's the most leads coming in? Where do you see the most action? Instagram?
Instagram, yeah. That's where I would say social media. I mean, Facebook too, but Instagram has always been kind of top thing. I just think potentially because of our age, that's where most of our age group is, Facebook, there's not so much. I mean, a little bit on Facebook. We haven't really done much on TikTok. Yeah. So Instagram, I think, is just our age group. Okay. That is the best for it.
Are there any, because I want to get into some mortgage industry, real estate, just kind of industry specific questions, do a little bit myth busting and get to the bottom of some things. But on the mortgage side of things, whether that's, the political climate, interest rates, law coming, changes in society, coming law changes, anything like that, is there a shift that's happened? Is there anything new coming in the mortgage or home buying industry?
So I would say the biggest thing right now is that if you're not in the industry, you probably haven't seen a ton of it, maybe a little bit, but credit reports is like one of every mortgage company's biggest expense because when you pull a credit, we're paying for it up front and then we get reimbursed on the end. But if they don't close, we never get paid back, essentially. So companies, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on credit reports, depending on how big your company, how they're, how many they're pulling. But it's always been, we always had a standard. It was like a mortgage credit score. Now they've opened it up to Vantage 4.0. So it's opened up a lot of doors for a lot more buyers because Vantage 4.0 is a little more lenient, but it's also like cheaper as well. So like our credit reports are $135 every time you pull it. Like the Vantage is like maybe 60 or 70 bucks. So if you're getting a mortgage now, you've probably heard of it because people have been talking about, the Vantage score, now it's allowed with mortgages. So I think that's like one of the biggest changes because one, it's cheaper on us and the consumer, but it also gives people who may not have been able to get a house.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's been a big thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. With that, then, I definitely want to jump into some of these let's just call them mythbuster sessions of the mortgage and real estate industry. If you're online, anywhere, along with the don't sleep, biohack,
Right.
what else is popular right now? Own your own home and be an entrepreneurship thing. People have made home ownership sound like it's crazy easy. Everyone can do it. You're a fool for renting. There's no advantages to renting, and everyone should own a home. And if you don't, it's just because you're bad with your money or whatever, right? So although I grew up in Detroit here, I've lived in the West Coast and in San Diego and LA for the last 10 years, not to count my own pockets on camera, but I'm doing okay. But the houses that I want in my neighborhood are $1.5 million and they're 1,200 square feet. It's tough to even rationalize trying to pay for that, let alone that's a pretty expensive home. So, for me, on the top of my brain right now, at least for me, renting a brand new apartment, right? That being said, how easy is it to buy a home? Who should be buying homes? When's the right time, the right age to consider it? Should you have a family, not have a family? Should you not buy the starter home and go buy the apartment building with 12 units in it first, and then that's your passive income for the rest of your life? Kind of talk through that.
I always tell people, because that's, people ask a lot, when's the best time to buy a home? When are the interest rates going to fall? That's always the question, but I always tell people the best time to buy a home is when you're ready to buy the home. You know what I mean? It's I could be making, or somebody could be making $200,000 house and they're ready to buy the house, but they don't want to handle repairs, or they don't want to, or they can't get enough or big enough for their family. So it's not the right time, for you. So I always say it's, if you talk to a mortgage professional and you can get approved for what you want, you have the money saved up, then that would be the time for you. It's no set perfect time for, this is, when you turn 32, this is when you're supposed to do it. It's when your financial situation is ready. So it's never a bad time to buy. But I also think that you should, in your life own something, or own an asset, because you can't get any more land, and housing are continue to rise. So I think you should have a piece of property to own. When that time is going to obviously vary from person to person.
Now, circumstances, like you said, very person to person and all that, but kind of from a very, very broad brush, high level. Hopefully, people don't hold you to it in case in case it's a little off, right? But okay, home buying 101. How much do I need to put down?
Minimum 3% when you're a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
If we're going conventional, if you're going FHA, which are the two main loan types, then you'd be putting 3.5%.
Okay.
Minimum down. If you're not a first-time home buyer buying conventional, minimum down is 5%.
Okay.
If you go VA or USDA, VAs, there's no down payment, just closing costs, taxes, and insurance, and then USDA is for rural areas, and that's also a no money down product, but you also have to have closing costs, taxes, and insurance.
Okay.
So, of course, there's our down payment assistance program out there for first-time home buyers, but those are kind of case by case, depending on the person.
Okay. So get 3 to 5% down to start is what you need to buy a home. So factor that in for everyone who's trying to do the math on whether they can do that or not. At that point, what else how long does the process take? What are some that maybe lends it more into having the right realtor. But what else do you need to know, or who else do you need to have like in the equation to have the most, let's just say, efficient or smooth home buying process?
Well, of course, a good real estate agent and a good mortgage person. Those are two main things, and then a good inspector. Because every house that you're buying, most people are buying a used house, not new construction. So you want to have a good inspector to make sure there's no real issues before closing on this house. But I always tell people too, it's, make sure you have, don't think of it like, say, hey, your minimum down is 3%. A lot of people will come and say, hey, I'm ready, but they only have the 3%. And I'm like, you can do it. But when you buy this house, what if the furnace goes out? What if your roof collapses and you just put all your money into this house and now you can't fix it to maintain it, because there are expenses with houses. So I always like to tell people, before you close or before you buy, make sure you have a slush fund or rainy day fund, whatever it is, because stuff can happen in home ownership. Especially somebody coming from rent, they don't ever have to worry about that.
Right.
So those are like my two I would suggest.
Okay. So that speaks to the home buyers who are looking for, whether it's your first, second home, something like that. Another common one, and I'm definitely going to get into this on the podcast with the realtors, but investment properties, because that's the other big thing right now. I recently got into not an argument, but just a discussion in the DMs with a bottle girl. Sorry, Tiffany. I'll bleep your name out, my bad. Bottle girl. Like bottle girl turned realtor now. So, people are showing off homes and things like that. And so now it went from, hey, buy this home, to now people are showing the crappiest looking building or whatever. And like, this is your nest egg or your way out, or hey, don't buy the first home as your starter home, but buy the apartment building with 10 units in it as your starter home. Use your loan on that, and like now you've got passive income for life and you never have to work again.
Right.
How true is that?
I wouldn't say it's true. I mean, there's some truth to it, but it's not all the way true, because honestly, most people can't just wake up and buy a 40-unit apartment building, because you would need 20% down on that, depending on how big that, how much it's being sold for. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you have to be able to manage it or pay somebody to manage it, so that thousands of dollars that you thought you were getting, now you're paying somebody with, to manage it, or you're using your own time to manage it. And obviously buying apartment buildings and bigger places like that, higher insurance costs, higher taxes, so it's not as easy as people make it seem in that aspect. But and then going back to the other side of it, buying, having one rental property is you're not gonna be a billionaire or millionaire. People, they use like millionaire and billionaires have huge portfolios of 30, 40, 50, 60 houses, because most houses, you're really, when it comes down to it, especially in the city of Detroit or Metro Detroit, you're making $400 or $500 each property or a month. So it's still good money, but you have to have more to keep that, portfolio rolling.
Yeah, props to you if you can make $400 a month, like it stretches passive income, never work, but with gas at what it's at right now, I don't think that's feasible for most people. Yeah. On that investment side, not to turn people away from that though, is that something that you guys do, and is that common? And what are, if there's an ideal time to invest in an investment property, like there's never a perfect time for anybody, but maybe what are some of those signals where it's like, okay, cool, we're in a place that you should consider this?
So investment properties, you have to put 20% down. So it's a big chunk or bigger chunk of money. But at the same thing, if you have the credit score, you have the job history and the money saved up, and you have also still a reserve fund, because that same house will have those same issues. And
times 8, like now you have 8 water heaters and like that out.
Most people rent, there's tenants, so like they're not treating it like their primary residence, so there's more issues, and that's another cost. So, I would never scare anybody from an investment property. I think it's a great opportunity, of course, to own, but you want to make sure that you're buying it the right one, the right areas, and knowing that it's not, the real estate investment's not a get rich fast. That's a very, very long play. Most of the, like I said, millionaires and billionaires, they own a lot of them, but they've owned a lot of them for years and years and years. So
gotcha, makes sense. Well, that's all been super, super helpful. Something I want to kind of wrap with is really just we talked about Belong and your journey up here and kind of where it's been. Belong looking forward, what does that look like? What are, we're at the halfway through 2026 right now. What do you guys see for yourselves for the rest of the year, the next couple years? Like, you looking to expand? How do you continue to kind of dominate, take over Metro Detroit? You're a Black-owned business right in the heart of downtown Detroit, which is awesome. What does that mean to you now, and how does that kind of grow?
Yeah, so the first part, I think we're looking at, we're on pace to beat what we did last year, and we have a little bit higher rates this year. So we're happy, super excited about that. But I think our next wave or ideas, we're going to be locking down more like heavy on recruiting, doing a lot more with social media because we're looking to expand in other states. And then our 5-year play is to have a second branch or office in Houston and kind of having both of those run. And and then of course a Black owned company, that means the world to me and the team, because it's, us being both Black, but for so long, Black people couldn't even get houses, so now 3 owners that are Black and, minority owned and woman owned, it's amazing. But I just think we just want to keep it going forward, and we just are happy that we can, we have a seat at the table now. So that's where we're at with it.
I love it, man. I love it. No, it's been a pleasure to watch your personal growth and the growth of this business and this company, growth of the team. It was in here earlier. I wish we had got the cameras up earlier,
right.
Because it was a madhouse in here in the best of ways. Definitely reminds me of some of the best offices I've worked with in the past. The music's going, everyone's laughing, interacting, vibes are high, but work is also getting done, which is what I love to see.
Yeah.
For anybody who wants to get a hold of you guys, work with you guys, get a hold of the team, get to know the team, what's the best way to reach out to you guys? And then also, what states are you currently operating in so that people can work with you?
So anywhere on social media, of course, Facebook, Belong Lending, Instagram at Belong Lending, same with LinkedIn, and we just started a TikTok, but it's not up and really running yet. Or going to the website, www.belonglending.com, and you can put an inquiry in there and somebody will reach out to you. We're in Ohio, Florida, Texas, and Michigan, and we're waiting on Georgia to come back. And then we're looking at probably be closer to the Carolinas or Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So those are the next on the horizon.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I love it, man. Keep up the growth. Let me know when you guys break into California so I can get one of those 0% loans on a $1.5 million house, and we'll be happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, definitely appreciate you sitting down with me.
For sure.
That has been another episode of the King's Gambit. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff online so we can keep bringing in more episodes. Again, Demetris, thanks for sitting down with me, bro. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do this again soon.
For sure.